Welcome to a new episode of the ArchitectWeb podcast. My name is Michiel van Rij. I'm editor-in-chief of ArchitectWeb, and today I'm at the Nieuwe Instituut for a conversation with Ma Yansong, principal architect and founder of MAD, about his architectural approach and of course about Fenix and the exhibition of his work here at the Nieuwe Instituut. Before we start, I would like to thank AGC for making this podcast possible. In the course of this episode, I briefly speak with Anton Peters from AGC about the low-carbon glass that they can provide. Ma Yansong, first of all, congratulations on the opening of Fenix and the exhibition at the Nieuwe Instituut. With your office, you work all over the world. That's why I'm curious to know how you experienced working in the Netherlands. How did the collaboration with the clients, consultants, and co-architects go?
Hi, nice meeting you. I hope you already seen the exhibition.
Yeah, of course.
Here,
yeah.
I feel very lucky I can show my work here. Also, the Fenix Museum opening. The project we've been working on has been a great experience. I feel quite lucky that I always dreamed to build some cultural project, a museum, especially like museum about migration. It's a really good cultural place with a narrative, with connection to people. And so far, it's been really great experience. We're still working with the foundation on the next project. So it's a really good experience to work together. Yeah.
Projects in the Netherlands sometimes take a bit longer. Bigger projects often take 10 years. This project also took about 8 years. Was that something you expected?
I think it's a normal speed. I mean, in China, it's a little bit faster, but 5 to 8 years, that's the average. That's for a project. Maybe the Fenix Museum looks smaller because you see the project is basically focusing on the lobby with the tornado staircase. That looks like a small project, but it's actually a museum. It's a bigger space inside. Sure. And also we've been working with the museum about the spatial experience, the collection. So they really put everything together. I think it's a good speed for such a project.
And all in all, it's quite a big. If you take the warehouse, it's quite a big project in the center of Rotterdam. It's significant.
Yes. Also, at the very beginning, I don't think everyone was 100% clear what it's gonna be. So we knew it's about migration, but what's the museum for migration gonna be? What's the experience, the atmosphere? So I feel this is a process for everyone to explore, and it's really good experience for everyone to communicate to each other and to express their thoughts on the concept. What's the concept of a migration museum?
I myself was blown away by the spatial experience of this circular staircase, the tornado as it's being called. How you move up and down on it, slowing down and then speeding up, breaking through the roof and then looking out over the city with the stairs occasionally crossing each other, which is a fascinating experience, creating encounters or in moments of choice. Are you happy with how the staircase turned out?
Yeah, the museum opening was really memorable. I imagine, the actual thing for a long time, for years, from the first sketch. But you can never imagine. Only when you see the people, experience on this staircase, because only the movement, the people's movement and their encounter to each other, and they talk to each other. They express something on their face. It's really complete the work. Because before was you imagine what's gonna happen. Because it's a geometry, it's a technology, it's a material structure. But it's so abstract without people. With people, it becomes life. So I often think about that. Imagine how people express their feelings when they walk up and down, especially with the light with other people. I saw that in the opening, and I really feel excited because I like to stand there in the crowd and look at other people. I think the movement, especially when there's exhibition already, and the people go into the exhibition and come back to this public space with their emotion, that's really something.
And in more general, when do you consider a project being successful? Is it with this when you see the people using it and experiences? Is that when you see, okay, this is
without people, it's not completed. No. It's code. It's an object. It's a material, everything. But I think this is designed for experience. So experience is different for everyone. So you have to consider the visitor. They come with something. They come from their normal life. They walk along the river. They walk through the bridge, and they arrive at the old warehouse with memories already. And they start this new journey. Maybe they're surprised at the beginning. They're already longing for something new, unexpected, and they start the journey. And then they will, walk through and see other people. And of course, through the exhibition, they will start to also hear a lot of different narratives and stories about this topic. And then at the end, they go through the roof and to the highest point and look at the city and the ocean and come back. I think that's really rich experience for everyone. And some people I see they cry. Maybe it's because they're personal stories. And some kids, they don't know what's going on. They just love the space and they're just running up and down. I feel this different reaction. I feel, some reaction is unexpected for me. Well, but it's become so honest and so truly become public. So I love that. I love to, as an architect, to stand there and see what's going on.
The rounded shapes that you design arise from intuitively drawn lines, which of course are optimized later, but not too much, so that the human hand remains visible, as I see it. In the same way, the projects are being about creating places for encounters among people, and also about integration of architecture and nature. So there's multiple things there. In the tornado, this translates into a double staircase in which no part is the same. Every turn, every piece is unique, and when you walk over it, it struck me, you really experienced that. To me, it evoked associations of old handmade architecture, like old churches, but also made me think of climbing a hill or dune. It's maybe a bit abstract question, but I feel you strive in your work to as a sort of towards a sort of encounter between the cultural and the natural, but also sort of emphasize the human in us, in a way.
Yeah, I think architecture has to do with people's emotion, like how people feel about the space, especially for those without architecture background, for everyone. Because architecture, especially public space, is open for everyone, and people has to respond to your design. That's also something I learned from the museum, how they curate the show. They were talking about the narrative, right? The narrative behind art, so everyone can understand the art and the meaning behind the art. I think that's important, that architecture can tell stories. Through the stories, a cold object can communicate with everyone. So for me, I think that's something I really enjoy, that using architecture as a tool to communicate with different people with a different cultural background, especially when I come here as a Chinese designer. I present something to European people. I don't know, each one's background, but I want to create a space that everyone can come and they can see things that I see. So I want the design really represent what I saw, what I imagine. So I do sketches. I think the sketch at the very early stage truly present what I feel. I couldn't even 100% describe that because it's really, fast, sometimes really like instant response to certain topic. For example, my first sketch for the Fenix Museum was just a simple line, like horizontal warehouse and with a tornado, like a really sketchy curved line in the middle. Everyone when they look at it, they were laughing. They were like, "Whoa, this is a well childish sketch." And then it turned out become so complex architecture piece, right? Because it's so difficult to capture your hand sketch movement by building materials, and you have to create this structure without column. For example, you did some drawing that really feels floating. That in reality, that's so difficult to build it. But we have to manage that process, that the final accurate, complicated product 100% match your first sketch. Although the first sketch was really emotional and childish sometimes, but that accuracy, translation is important. That make your final space, architecture space, showing some quality, emotional quality in your first sketch, so that the visitors can feel the same.
Exactly.
There's a process of sometimes to make your imagination real, right? So there's some feasibility study, of course, and the material, everything you have to study about that. But I don't want to make it perfect. So-called correct it. I don't want to correct my first sketch. I want to keep everything. I think there's something that human embedded in your sketch that I want to keep. So the architecture, some technology that now we're talking about AI a lot, often trying to correct you, like trying to make something more correct, more perfect, right? I think sometimes imperfection is important to me, also to everyone. They want to touch humans' feeling through the architecture, right? So-called imperfection is actually very human. That's
exactly. That's what struck me at when walking the staircase. This is a more human experience than if it was more optimized, like Foster and Partners would do, for instance. Then it's more detached. But what I also like about your description now is that in a way your sketch is providing a sort of essential of essence to the experience, and then by working really hard to make that, it gets to for the people visiting, they get that essential experience, they encounter that, and
just curious,
which is also very, in a way, because it's so clear, it's also a very open experience, so everybody can enjoy that.
Because sometimes when something look too perfect, you don't need to go in there because you already can understand what you're gonna feel. You know that from your experience, because we've been experiencing many so-called correct and perfection things, right? But when I look at one sketch, I'm curious what's gonna happen if you go in there. You cannot. It's so unexpected experience probably. So I want to turn that into reality. Even I know if I do that same sketch again, it's gonna be different. I cannot repeat it.
Sure. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because I think for architecture, there's a two phase. At the first phase is nothing about perfect, right? If you look at architecture history, I mean, the architecture always changes, style change, material change. Classic building, you have a different standard to judge, to talk about classic building. Yeah. Different from you talk about the modern building, right? The architecture is changing, but you cannot say, modern architecture is doing better than the classic, right? It's just changing. I think the value for architecture is truly showing people's emotion or their value or their imagination at a different time. So the value of architecture is representing people at a different period. So I think we need to just don't miss people. Don't talk architecture without people. Yeah. It's too abstract. We need to respect the people behind materials.
And you talk about architecture providing or telling a sort of story to people. Is then sort of in the architectural language is then sort of metaphors to landscape or landscape forms then something that you think everybody can appreciate? Is that if you want to tell a narrative that everybody can understand? Yeah. What do you resort to?
I like narratives, but I also feel, the narrative should generate different response and different imagination that belongs to each individual. That's important. It's not about telling everyone the same thing, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So I think how to generate different people's imagination, that's really hard hard task. At the beginning, I feel if you create something abstract, then you leave some space for everyone. But there's another challenge. When people look at something too abstract, they feel detached. They don't feel anything. They're like, what? Like, I don't understand this. Like, what does it mean? Am I not educated enough to? I mean, that sometimes is a bad feeling, Mm-hmm. So that's why I really like the museum's collection, the Fenix Museum. They really tell the stories that belong to everyone. And when you look at those stories and those art, and then that will trigger your own experience and your own story. And then you have a space to imagine and to start your own thinking, observation. It's like there's a drama there, and then there's an invitation for everyone come to the stage, start your own story. I think that's really the main task for a cultural institution, is that to showing something, but also inviting everyone to start their own journey. It's not being too strong to tell everyone what to think. So sometimes you need certain level of abstraction, leave some space for other people, but also the way you're telling story should be more like down to earth. I think to be honest and for everyone to understand.
With your studio, Matt, you like to design buildings that, sort of always have a curved line somewhere. Buildings with a lot of repetition. Our world is full of them. What do you think of them? How boring, or is it a shame that industrial production is so defining our living environment? What is a sort of a peek into your mind? How do you look at the world?
To be honest, sometimes I use the street lines as well. I do. I use the boxes. Sometimes I use street lines, but maybe more times I do curve lines. I just feel if there's a more opportunity when I do free drawings, like a free lines, that can be more easier to express my emotion. I feel in the modern time people talk about architecture more about function, because the linear building is more efficient and easier to make, and the mass production, the material repetition, everything, because the industrial revolution after that, Le Corbusier said residential building is a machine for living. Machine. Who want to live in the machine? I mean, why machine? I don't like living in the machine. I think architecture should go beyond that. Of course, it's a space for everyone. You need a function, but as I mentioned earlier, people live in different space. If you look at the architecture history, we live in the cave, and then tent, and then different buildings, right? In my hometown in the east, we have a courtyard house. We have a Chinese garden, Japanese garden, and people used to live in the very simple architecture, but you have to have a garden together with your building, so that your life is protected, but also so close to nature. That's important. So the composition is a must. Same for urban planning. For example, Beijing and some old classic city, they plan with this huge garden together with the city urban plan. I feel if you ask any people live in Beijing now, for example, they would think the traditional house was better. Although, I mean, everything, technology changed so much, and your new building in the tower is bigger. Probably you have air condition, everything. But why people think old building was better? I mean, after all this development, this innovations, new technology, maybe it's not the only important thing. Maybe closer to the nature was so important, and that's totally missing in our modern buildings. So I think something that's about architecture. It's not about material and technology and this things like this. It's about everyone's emotion and your cultural background. I think people. You can live in any place, but there's an ideal way to live. We need to ask that. What's ideal?
You mentioned already AI, artificial intelligence, seems to offer us freedom as humans, but it can possibly also outsource, in a way, the human element in the creative process to machines. How do you view the rise of AI in the world, and specifically in architecture? How do you deal with that in your studio?
Yes, I can continue my argument to your last question. When architecture changes, it's not valid to say, okay, if I go back to the past, I can do better architecture. Maybe you can, but it doesn't mean anything, right? You can do better garden, but it doesn't mean anything. Architecture change because it's showing people, it's representing people at that time, their ambition, their dream, right? Their expression. It's just that, it can be better, it can be more perfect. So what? It belongs to the history because the people. AI is the same. How can we make sure that our creation is ours?
And from our time.
It's for our time. Even we know we're making mistakes. We don't want to make so-called perfect architecture. It doesn't exist. It cannot make it. Even you do wrong architecture, in the future when people look back, they still respect you. But you don't lose humans' emotion and touch. I even think it's fine to go back to tradition, because human seems more and more absent in architecture.
But back to the AI, do you use it at the studio or?
As a tool, of course.
Yeah, as a tool.
And I think make the production more efficient. I totally agree with that, because architecture production, design as a profession is really taking too much time and energy, right? For the whole team to work for years. That can be easily replaced by AI, because you need what you need is experience, and you need to understand the regulation, the law, and things like that. That's easily. But there's another phase, similar to art. Like you create something for people. That's based on the humans' conversation, the judgment, things like that. I think that part should remain human. So basically, in the future, I hope will be smaller group of people doing architecture, but the more focus on the social issues and the cultural, how your space and the built environment more responding to that, to people. I think for that part, there's no right or wrong. Because we need the whole world to become rich and diverse. You cannot make one software decide your city, right?
In addition to Fenix, you are currently designing the transformation of the adjacent Provimi warehouse into Danshuis. That building will house dance studios for both amateur and professional dance companies. The warehouse will be stripped of the silo behind it, and the current buildings on the quay will also be removed, so that it will make a very good neighbor to Fenix. What other interventions did you want to make? Do you want to make to the warehouse?
I think for that building, we're mainly look at the interior, and behind the building there's a garden, and we're thinking to introduce a new theater, like a small theater space behind it. That's a new construction. Other than that, will be like protection for the old warehouse and work from inside. Like you mentioned, the dance studio. I think that's really good program for that building. Especially the concept is about bring everyone to into one space. Right? That means everyone can dance. Your body, everyone. So it's open to all different kind of dances. In China, I totally understand that, because in China there's a dance called like plaza dance.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
sure.
Like after every dinner, like people go to the square, like seniors, young people, everyone go there, have this massive group like doing the dance.
You see that everywhere,
every city. They're so happy, and becomes so social, engaging for everyone, and people love it.
Sure.
And of course, it's you exercise, and also people meet other people. I think that's really a new concept to dance, like that becomes social activity that bring people together. So that's something we're imagining here.
Yeah, sure. But I also think that sort of combining these different groups in one building will be so inspirational for all of them, to encounter and to see each other work and develop.
That's what I feel. I think the dance house and the Fenix Museum, that's the same. I think they want to tell the story about the community, that they want to engage people. It's very different from the international style contemporary art museum. Very different from that concept, because those museums trying to be high class. Sometimes they want to isolate from normal people, you don't understand, you're not engaging, so you feel that's so special. But I don't think that's the case here. I think even we're trying to do something opposite to that.
Exactly.
So bring art to everyone. I think that's cool.
And discuss topics that concern everybody. when I look at your portfolio, I see an enormous creativity that translates into all kinds of buildings with all kinds of different specialities, and are materialized in all kinds of different ways. Your studio has offices in Beijing, Los Angeles, and Rome, and you are obviously always busy. Deadlines come faster than you want. How do you create space for yourself and for your teams for this creativity to explore these new specialities, new materials, is that a challenge, or does that
I think that's really hard question for every architect. Everyone's endless. You can put endless effort to one project. If you want more and more and more, better and better. So you always try to change, and a lot of effort. If you ask any architect, I think the life and your profession is sort of a mix. For me personally, I travel because, as you mentioned, we have a project at a different place. I think meeting people from different place is really inspiring. Like that's almost become my only goal doing an international project. As you know, when I started to do a project outside China, I knew it's gonna take a lot of effort and time. I don't need it from the business point of view. Because I have so many projects in China, but that's not the way I look at architecture. I think architecture is should rooted into different place and generate from the very specific stories at different place. So from my personal experience, I love that. I love to go different places, learning things. For example, here, the Fenix Museum, and now I know many migrations in the city. I know their stories. I meet so many people. So it's a really different, you're from different place and just look at the Rotterdam or Holland. So I think that's, for me, you can say this is a work, but it's also my personal, experience as a human. Yeah. So I enjoy this. I gain new ideas when I travel, when I meet different people. From one culture to another culture, I enjoy this cultural change.
Sure.
and then sometimes I think about things I write on the airplane during this different locations. So I think, and meeting the artists, sometimes the writers, different cultural people at a different place, talk to them. I think that's my resource. And does that also translate in the exhibition here at the New Institute? You also present your team, which has a very international background, so it's very diverse. Is that also something you do on purpose, or to create this more creative environment in the studios, or is that something that just happened? Very interested in young people. I think we attract many of them with a open heart. They love architecture because they want to bring something new to it. So they feel they have this obligation or their energy to do that, because architecture is hard profession. You have to have an ambition or dream to do some change. I think that's why they love to join. We even have some people is not from architecture profession. They were not educated as architects, but we feel they can bring new energy and vision to our office, and we're open to those people.
In some of your projects, the final architectural form is more of a cladding of a structure, while in other projects, the form and structure coincide as sort of bubbles or shell. It's very in your portfolio. I can clearly see there's sort of different types of projects. In the history of architecture, you've always seen that difference. Do you have the ambition for the construction and form to coincide more, or do projects not always lend themselves to that?
I think we are flexible.
I
don't think which way is better than the other. I think depending on the nature of the project, also, the location. Because different place has a different ability to build. Sometimes the project become too challenging. I mean, design-wise, on the paper is perfect, but in reality, that's too challenging to a place. Without that capability, then you will make a mess. That will make the final building not so satisfied. So I think that even sometimes, when we do buildings in China, especially at some rural area, we try to make construction easier. We don't want people to focus on the technology too much. Yeah. Especially if you make architecture as an experience, well, actually those details and structure are not important. It's like people enter a space, what they see is a light, and how the space responding to the light, and the architecture is just the boundary, to reflect the light and the sound experience. It's nice. You have a good detail and material, things like that. But that's really related to the level of technology and the budget and how much money you put in there. But you can achieve the similar or even better experience without showing that. You understand what I mean? If the emotion, and this reaction is so important, it's like you creating stage. You don't have to make the stage so expensive. So that will make architecture accessible to people.
But it's also about that there was obviously a time where architects were really focused on showing how it was made or about the construction, but your work is really about the spaces and not so much about how it was.
Someone even said my architecture is about the dematerialize the space. Because a space, any architecture space, telling different things. You have a spatial experience, and of course you have a material, you have a tectonics and details, things like that. Too many things. If you want to focus on one, in my case is a spatial experience. I tend to make other part weaker. Don't show up, don't compete. I don't want to go in a space and pointing a spot and telling the story behind it. I don't want to describe. So I want people to feel sometimes. So hopefully I want other aspects of the space, like for example the materials, detail, things like this, can set back. Don't show much.
No, but sort of I'm quite fascinated by there's some works in your portfolio in which there's basically just a sort of glass or glassy bubble in which you enter, or a sort of very atmospheric spaces in which actually detail, there are basically no details left. It's just a sort of very calm space.
I also am very sensitive to the material texture. Sometimes the material already have some cultural reference. It's not just a material. If you're using concrete, it's sometimes referred to different architecture with a different background. I don't want that. If I use concrete, I want it to be just concrete. If I want to use metal or wood, I want it stay. Wood is soft, is warm. I want that quality. I don't want people look at the wood, think about other building.
No.
That building will have a different background, different stories. That will make confusing, So I'm very sensitive to that. So the material, I rather choose more simple and clean and abstract.
We take a quick break to talk to Anton Peters from AGC about the low-carbon glass that they can provide. Anton, on the Amsterdam South axis around the Academic Medical Center, there's a healthcare city emerging. For this, Atelier Pro has designed a new research and diagnostic center. The building is 6 stories high and contains research areas and offices. The facade consists of a varied grid of glass fiber reinforced concrete with large windows in it. And there's something special about the glass that is used here. This is the first application of your low-carbon glass in the Netherlands. 1,700 square meters of low-carbon glass. Are there, in the meantime, more projects in the pipeline?
Yeah, there are more projects popping up. Not only project, but also for industrial applications, also for architectural purposes. So we see the demand growing really day by day. And today we are producing it on 3 locations in Europe, but it will be extended quite soon. And all these 3 locations are quite close to the Netherlands.
The low-carbon glass from AGC emits 45% less CO2. How is this saving achieved?
The way we are achieving this goal is it's a holistic approach. Let's first start with the raw materials. We are using soda ash, so it's a natural soda which emits less CO2. The second part is using renewable energy. The focus is on solar and wind energy. We're saving a lot of CO2 with material handling and transport, so like the logistic part of it. We are using cullet from not only pre-consumer but also post-consumer cullet we will use. But the real trick is to use electroboosting. And electroboosting is basically that we put electroboosters in the conductive mass. If you're melting glass or melting the raw materials and it becomes glass, it's conductive. So it's a quite efficient way of melting glass. And in total, with this holistic approach, we are saving, let's say, 45% of CO2 emission. And the next step will be the Volta project, where we will produce a pattern glass based on this technology. And it goes a little bit beyond this way of production, but the goal is to save 74% of CO2.
Wow, that is a massive step forward.
Indeed.
Yeah. Currently, we still think this is something special, low carbon glass, but it will eventually become the standard, right? It will basically, our baseline will shift up.
That's correct. Today it sounds a little bit special, but we have our goals as AGC. We have our goals in the architectural market. So we expect a little bit that within 4 or 5 years it will be really the standard.
Yeah. Is low carbon glass already represented in the National Environmental Database, the NMD?
Nearly. And the reason is that we are not focusing on the materials, but on the configurations. And this is really what you want for your building.
Exactly. And regarding these configurations, at AGC you have recently developed an EPD tool that can generate an EPD for almost any glass you can specify.
Yes, basically all the compositions we can create. It's connected to our glass configurator, and so we can make a real estimation of the environmental impact on a building, and not only on focus on material, no, on the real composition you are using with the real amounts.
Thanks, Anton. More information about all the types of glass that AGC supplies can be found on agc-yourglass.com. On that website you can also find the glass configurator with EPD tool, with which you can specify the glass for a project yourself and view it in different weather types via renderings. We are back to our conversation with Ma Yansong of MAD about his architectural approach, about his experience of growing up in the hutongs of Beijing and how he sees the future of our cities. There are many projects within your portfolio that I definitely want to visit that are on my bucket list, so to say, such as the Xiaoyang Park Plaza in Beijing, or the Beijing Hutong Bubble, or the Cloudscape Library in Haiku. But at the top of my list is the Harbin Opera House, a building that seems to have been shaped by the wind, made of aluminium and glass on the outside, and a wooden auditorium inside that seems to have been carved or eroded by water. What is the biggest challenge in realizing such a project? Is that convincing the client, or to keep it affordable, or to get it made? What is the biggest challenge? I know you've been working on in Harbin for a very long time, so it must also be a long process. But what is the challenge in realizing such a?
That building already completed 10 years ago. That means we started very early. At that time, in China, it was really challenging to build such structure that with a complexity like that. And there are many technical challenges. So far, I think the quality is still okay, like the details and the material. As I mentioned, I don't want to show too much of those, but you actually have to deal with it. You have to. It's even harder to not showing that sometimes. How to put all these metal panels together. The way we're putting those panels together, we have to leave the gap in between the panels, but we also want this continuous surface. We don't want to show a lot of gaps. So in the end, we decide to design the panels in the way to have gaps facing up to the sky, more like an overlap, but with a gap in between. So we use this gap to collect all the dust and the water and the snow in that climate. So we can keep this white building clean. In Chinese climate, sometimes can be really polluted. So that make the special detail make everything easy, maintenance, construction, everything easy. So you have to think about that. I think that's the main challenge. At that period, people open to new ideas in China. People didn't have enough experience. They don't know what's the challenge they have. They love the image, let's do it. And that's not the difficult part. But how to really develop the design was the challenge. Until now, it's been operating for a decade, and people really love it. It's become the symbol of the city, and still operating quite well, the building. So I think it's been a successful case. Personally, for me, sometimes I think, is it too beautiful, this architecture? Sometimes I feel, I don't know what's my problem.
What is the disadvantage of being too beautiful?
Sometimes I feel architecture shouldn't make people too comfortable. I don't know why. Sometimes I feel as artists, you want to challenge people, and you want to people feel something and ask questions and even debate about the ideas behind it. I think that's something extra that architecture can bring to people, other than say, I love it, they're so nice.
I understand. You mean it gets being too precious, huh?
Yeah, the idea behind the building, we didn't try to make wallpaper kind of architecture. It's more, the idea is about engaging and the interaction. So that's why we designed the building as a slope and introduced the staircase outside the building on the facade, so everyone can walk around, experience. That was our approach. So this, what people get from this engagement, that seems, I hope, so sometimes I hope the architecture can work for a long time. This 10 years, what about 50 years later? What people look at it and what they feel, what they gain, something new from your architecture.
And this was some time ago. Is it, in a way, gotten easier in time to make such a building because of sort of computer-aided manufacturing?
Now it's much easier.
Yeah.
I mean, even back then, designing that kind of building, I mean, making a computer model wasn't a big challenge. How to build it, how to develop the design was challenging. How to, now I think even the contractors, the factories in China, they have a better capability to build such a complex building. But like now, the new architecture we're doing, we know who's doing really good job. So I don't think that's so difficult. I think in the future, even any architecture shape will be possible.
Yeah.
So I think what's for the future? I mean, challenging technologies isn't interesting. We should. I think what's really challenging is if architecture can make people feel and they can be moved.
Exactly.
I think that's more challenging.
A few years ago, you gave a short online lecture at Architects Not Architecture and talked about your fascination with design and architecture in science fiction, something that I share, and about the trips you made to visit the work of Antoni Gaudí and Oscar Niemeyer. What did you learn from visiting Gaudí and Niemeyer's projects?
Oh, they're different. They're unique. I think,
completely different. Yeah.
They're very, they're doing their own things, and and both of them doing inspired by nature, and they're doing really free form architecture. I love it because I'm doing architecture also, close to inspired by nature, and I want to make some, free shape curves sometime. Yeah, I think they like. Niemeyer mentioned he loves nature and inspired by women's bodies. That's part of the beauty of our world. I agree with that. I think architecture should be sensitive, shouldn't be too abstract and cold. And I love their sculpture part. Some details in their architecture.
Yeah,
Gaudí's, church. They have a big portion of the architecture was a sculpture.
Yeah,
so you can say it's not necessary, from the functional point of view, but it's necessary. I mean, for people to experience that. Yeah.
The architecture of Antoni Gaudí is also very colorful. Old Chinese architecture and Greek architecture was also very colorfully painted. Yeah, is that also an inspiration? We come from an era in which sort of architecture used to be very grayish. Yeah, is it something? Is that something you think for your own work to sort of add splashes of or
You know why architects wear black? Why they always wear black? No color. I think it's hard. I mean, I love color. I want to do it. I want to try it in my next project. But it's hard, to make color in a good way. It's hard.
It's very hard. Yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah.
But I understand that. I get it. I really love it to not just colors, but also the architecture used to combine all the art, sculpture, lithography, different things to combine everything. So it's the biggest art form and platform, because people come to a building, they will open a lot of senses. They see things, they feel things, they touch things. So how to bring all this together, to people, not making too abstract, And so I think I'm curious. I want to try that.
You often in lectures describe your bringing up. You grew up in the hutongs of Beijing. Can you shortly describe here how the life was there back then? How did you live there? And there's this anecdote that you used to walk on the roofs I think, which I also find fascinating because you design all these buildings where you can walk on the roofs now. So, but what was it? What was it to grow up there?
Yeah, when I was a kid, there was a famous saying: if you don't get beaten within 3 days, you will go up to the roof. I mean, talking about the naughty side of a child, because the courtyard house is you put the building on 4 sides and with the courtyard in the middle, so it feels safe, feels inner, protected. You have a privacy, you have your sky, you have a nature in the middle, but at the same time you feel you're being limited.
Sure.
So naughty kids want to go up to the roof and cross a boundary. To go to other family and go even further. So that's talking about that. But there's a beauty. The beauty is you have your own sky and the land. These 4 rooms facing the focus point. They all can see each other. Also, they are all facing the nature. Well, I find in the West, especially in the U.S., when they build a house, they put the house in the middle as an object and leave the gardens around the house. Yeah. So you can look outside. It's quite different character, Yeah. So Chinese people like to look inside. Even for the Chinese garden, sometimes they build a wall. The wall is a boundary, so they will look at the landscape surrounded by the wall. Yeah, I think that's showing the different way people look at the nature. I would say the nature is artificial. It's it's being curated. It's being designed to the scale, the size, the color change through the seasons. It's become the extension of your human's spirit. They imagine things. They think when they look at this dry garden with a stone, they think, oh, this is a universe. This is a planet. I'm floating in the like infinite, much bigger space than this small garden. So they imagine things. I find that's the nature has that quality in the courtyard house. Yeah, so I think that's maybe the reason. My first student project, they asked me to design some small shop or something, a small building. But basically, what I did was planting a lot of trees. I made a lot of a tree garden. So I thought the nature was more important than building. Maybe that's from my experience when I was young.
Yeah, exactly. The hutongs of Beijing are, for a large part, have been demolished. You've put that on the agenda some time ago. Can the hutongs be preserved also as a sort of way of life? I'm wondering, or are these neighborhoods, if preserved, doomed to become museum pieces? To put it a bit sharply, but is there a way in the pressure of, for instance, in Beijing that has been growing so big with these areas? Is there a way to sort of preserve it, or should we not try that? What do you think of that?
The courtyard house, the beauty of it was built from bottom up. It's every family built their own, and they look similar, but they're different, and they become so organic, urban fabric. And every time when government trying to touch it, either demolish or rebuild or protect it, is different. It's wrong. So I think it has to respect the life, a neighborhood behind the building. It's not the building itself. So I think my attitude was you need to help people who live there, because they don't have heating and they don't have gas and the toilet. They have to go to the public toilet. So I did one project. I built a toilet design in one small courtyard. I call this hutong bubble because the toilet looked like a bubble. It's a metal. It's metal toilet with a curve outside and reflecting the surrounding. So the idea was to provide the basic functions for each family, so they can live there. They can be part of the modern city. I think that's the only way. I mean, you can turn that into commercial or museum, but that's too big for that. It's a big area. Sure. You need people live there. But for example, if you ask me to move there, I'm scared. I mean, now because the city has how many? 40 million people. I mean, everyone live in the high-rise building. If I move there, I feel I'm surrounded by these towers who's watching me. Like, why you live in this? In a single floor with a beautiful garden, and everyone live in the high-rise building. I don't feel, but it's fine to keep people already there, so they feel good to live there maybe, and it's not realistic to have that for every family because the people, the population, the density. I mean, if everyone has one courtyard, Beijing will go into the ocean. It will spend too big.
Sure. But you do feel it should be preserved, but then you should keep your hands off from it. So just leave the people living there.
Yeah, I think you should encourage the community. They form the community. Like every time government try to help them, like by building something, it's wrong. It's wrong. Yeah. So they have to help themselves. Yeah. You can help them to form this community group. They should start to discuss. They have a hutong. Each hutong maybe 50 houses. They should have a conversation whether they want more commercial or they want quiet neighborhood, things like this. But I think the bigger question is we're building many new houses and new cities. Is there a way to borrow the beauty of the old house and bring to modern buildings? Now we're building towers, but is there possibility to bring some nature, courtyard, I don't know, to the high-rise building, or some sense of community to the high-rise building? I think that's really valid question.
Here at the exhibition at the New Institute, you are presenting a large project with social housing, with a sort of continuous communal space on top of a layer with facilities that open to the streets. It's quite a different kind of residential area than the compounds that you often see in China. So there's no wall around it, but it's actually open and sort of slopes. Is that the kind of new residential that you envision?
I feel that. I feel what is missing in general in the modern city was sense of community. Like people, why they want to build a gated community? Because the way they generate real estate, they try to differentiate people. They want to build one compound that's more expensive than the other. So they want to differentiate people. So they want to isolate from people from other people. And that totally different from the hutong neighborhood, which is all about the neighbors. When I was a kid, there's a saying that a good neighbor is better than your far relatives. So because you live together daily, if you argue, if you fight every day, it's hard. So people know how to deal with people with a different background. That's really hard in today's society. Like people try to avoid other people. They don't want to communicate with people. If you go into high-rise building, taking one elevator, people don't want to talk to other people. They try to, look at their phones. They try to avoid a little different here. but if you're Chinese people in the US, in the elevator, in European elevator, when people say hello, they feel awkward. They don't want to talk to you, because they don't know their neighbors. So I think something wrong with the physical space. Maybe they try to, pull people apart from each other. So I think that's a research I did about the social housing in China. Like, no matter, because many residents, they move here from the old courtyard house. Now they move to the high-rise building, social housing with a bigger unit, with a newer construction, everything is nicer. They don't feel happy.
No.
One reason is that they feel they're isolated from the neighborhood, from the city, and the city, the city will look down to them. They're special. That they don't feel good about that. So open the gate, open this no wall. That's important. And if you can make nice community, nice environment here, even you can attract the people from other neighborhood come to here. Yeah. That will make them really happy. They feel, they're not forgotten. They're, people love to be here. And that they can build sense of community, which is I think the main reason for social housing in China. We did one project like that. We tried something, and now we're still doing this. The document after the building finished to observe how families and people feel from this development.
Yeah, but when I hear you, I also think maybe we should, as architects, we should maybe rethink also the tower design in a way that to make it on these floors where you live back to back, basically, that you encounter your neighbors or can.
Yes,
so
yes.
Sort of that's sort of a challenge that is basically a global challenge.
I think we should probably look at the Japanese architect. They do social housing. They do the residential, like so-called high density housing blocks. And every famous architect did something special. Yeah. I mean, I found that's really difficult in China because the code, the regulation was so hard for you to do something different, because they designed to regulate those developers. They try to gain more values, right? So they try to limit them to do something different. But at the same time, it's hard to create something. But I mentioned Japan because, good architects, they work on housing. Well, in China, those housing is so we say 1,000 city with one phase. That's mainly talking about the housing project. The same residential tower, same compound everywhere in different city around China. And not many designers really working on that. Yeah. It's hard, but I think we should take that challenge. Yeah, I think how can we bring the community feeling? How can we bring nature? You have to work on use architecture power to magic to change by playing with the scale and the space, everything. Within these limitations, I find that's really challenging, but it's being rewarding. When you see people, they gain something.
Exactly. Maybe as last question, when you try to look ahead to the city of the future, how do you envision that?
I think we should be more free. We should. Everyone talking about the freedom, but don't you feel we're now limited, by many things? I think we should be more brave, and we should fight for more free. And, at the same time, we should respect other people with a different opinion. That will bring your that will bring you freedom, because only when you allow other people have a freedom, you can feel free. I think that's really important, that our world is architecture world, very diverse and different, with and showing the evidence that people has dream and imagination and their very positive view towards the future. I think we should show that.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
why we choose this profession. Let's do things do things different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ma, for this lovely conversation. If you haven't visited Fenix yet, do that this summer. Fenix is open 6 days a week, and do know that you can visit it with your family. The exhibition Ma Yansong, Architecture and Emotion at the Nieuwe Instituut can be seen until 21 September 2025. Thanks to AGC for making this podcast possible. Thank you for listening. Until next time.